Top 5 tankiest warframes for Steel Path. Yes, that is the topic of today's videos. Now, they might not be the tankiest warframes, but top 5 amazing warframes for Steel Path. You're not going to die with these frames no matter how bad you are. You can survive basically anything if it's level 140. If it's level 9999, you will be able to survive with these warframes. I'm your lovely host, the Gaming Weasel, the one and only, and let's get straight into this. And now, you have to keep in mind that every warframe to a certain extent can utilize certain abilities or certain, I guess, loopholes, we'll call them, to survive inside a Steel Path. And by loopholes, I do mean by shield gating. Some warframes have loads and loads of health, some have loads of health and armor, some don't have any of that, but they do have shield gating, so that is a practice that you can do inside of Steel Path to survive with those frames. Maybe you like Mag, but you're shit at surviving with Mag because she's not a warframe that's good at surviving. Well, shield gating, for example, you can utilize that. Now, there's many abilities that you can subsume. I did not subsume a lot of these abilities on many of these warframes, or I guess, let's say 50% of these warframes. I made these builds the way I play them, the way I think you should try it out, and the way I think you should maybe play inside of Steel Path with these warframes. Number 5 is not better than number 1. They're just 5 amazing warframes to play inside of Steel Path. Now, there's many different warframes to play with, and there will be an honorable mentions segment, of course, in between second and first place. So let's get straight into number 5. And at number 5, we have our newest Prime addition to the game. It is, of course, Revenant Prime, the tank warframe of choice. He can survive anything, it does not matter. Mesmer Skin absorbs it all. Now, the great thing about Mesmer Skin is his second ability, that you basically can absorb any amount of damage per Mesmer Skin, I guess, cost. Now, one Mesmer Skin can basically absorb 1 million damage, and it can absorb 1 damage. It does not matter, it's gonna absorb everything, so that is really, really cool. It is dependent on power strength, so the more power strength you have, the more Mesmer Skin, I guess, count you actually have. First ability allowing you to basically take control of enemies and then them taking control of more enemies, and that being very, very cool. So a little bit of crowd controlling as well. Third ability, Enthrall, Reeve, allowing you to basically get your health back, which is really nice. And also you can basically explode enthralled enemies and kill them basically instantly with this build when you float, or I guess go through them. And that's Macabre is his 4th ability, but I use a roar subsumed onto him, making him get extra damage on all of his weapon types. For the primary, we have the Fenmore, an amazing assault rifle to have, an amazing weapon. I also hold Archons with Revenant. For the melee weapon of choice, we do have the Glaive Prime for heavy attacks. This is an amazing weapon to kill acolytes. I have a video on Revenant and also the Glaive Prime on my channel, so you can check that up in the little eye up there. They're gonna be, in every single part of the video, because I have a video on every single one of these warframes. Now, you can subsume, but you don't need to. I do have 2 Archon mods, one increasing casting speed and one giving me extra little bit of power strength, 10%, so that's really, really cool. And also Mold Augmented and Arcane Fury are going to be amazing for the Glaive Prime and also for my Mesmer Skin account. So that was number 5. Moving on to, of course, number 4. And at number 4, we have a Nezha Prime. Maybe an unexpected choice for some of you guys, but for me, he is definitely a very useful warframe inside of Steel Path. With Archon Vitality equipped onto him, he can do tons and tons of damage alongside reducing the enemy's armor by a substantial amount with that fire effect. His first ability, second and fourth, basically allowing you to crowd control gain health orbs through his second ability. There is of course a synergy between his second and his fourth, and of course his first ability allowing you to run super fast and also glide really fast. Now I made like a sort of a mixed build, a little bit of a tanky build as well. His third ability allowing you to casting Warding Halo and basically reducing your damage by 90%, or I guess your incoming damage by 90%. The build is a little bit mixed. Power strength is the main aspect that we're going to be focusing on. Adaptation for that status, I guess, protection, and a little bit of a duration and efficiency. Of course, Arcane Fury and Molt Augmented, two very good arcanes for the weapons that I'm using. I'm using the Proposer Cernos, yes, that's what the weapon's called, to interact enemies a little bit closer, and so I can do my fire damage to a much bigger group of enemies. The melee weapon of choice, again, Glaive Prime with heavy build, so I'm not going to show it here. If you want, you can kind of go back and then look at it at Baruch. And also keep in mind, I have subsumed Roar instead of his fourth. As I said earlier on, there is a synergy between his second and his fourth. I personally find the benefits to not be as substantial to me as Roar is, but that is on a personal basis. And of course I do have two Arcane shards, normal ones, one for extra health and the other one for extra health regeneration, just in case I forget to cast my second ability on enemies and gain those health orbs. But nonetheless, basically what you're gonna do, activate this first ability, then run into a group of enemies, activate this third ability, Warding Halo, to collect as much damage as you possibly can, to collect as much stacks for Warding Halo as you can, and reduce that damage by 90%, and pretty much be safe and secure. Then cast your second ability, even your fourth, and then your second if you haven't subsumed Roar, and gain and reap the benefits. So basically that is how you play Nezha. You cannot die with him even if you tried, but you have to keep in mind, you have to be a little bit more secure with him than you have to do with Revenant, but an amazing Warframe nonetheless, and paired with good weapons, he can be devastating for Steel Path. That was Nezha Prime. Moving on to number 3. At number 3, we have, of course, our pacifist Warframe, Baruch. He is an amazing Warframe. If you love big red damage numbers, this is the Warframe for you. And it does require a bit more setup than the other Warframes do, but believe me, the joy of seeing those red numbers pays off in triple-fold, five-fold, whatever you want to say, it pays off in the end for sure. His build, focusing on power strength, a little bit of health, a little bit of efficiency, and also Reactive Storm is going to be really cool. Reactive Storm adapting your elemental damage to the enemies that you're fighting. Nir's Hatred combined with Nir's Anguish inside of the aura slot is going to give you an extra 400% ground slam damage, and ground slamming is also going to drag enemies in, do tons and tons of damage, even to the Acolytes. The Acolytes can basically be 2 or maybe 3 shot with your ground slam attacks. Arcane Fury and Molt Augmented are going to be great mods to have. Now, the ability that you can't subsume is going to be LOL, because honestly, this ability is okay, but I don't use it like ever. Second ability puts enemies to sleep, lowers down the restrain meter. If you want to use your fourth ability, you have to bring that restrain meter down. You don't have to bring it down all the way, but the lower it is, the longer you can stay inside of your fourth. Third ability, basically, is going to summon daggers around you that reduce your damage up to 90%. Now, his fourth ability, Serene Storm, and his Desert Wind, I guess, melee weapon. The build is going to be focusing on damage, a little bit of, speed, and also critical damage, and also having viral is always amazing. Now, the melee weapon changes here. We have the Redeemer Prime, and the Redeemer Prime is going to be our statistic of sort. You're basically going to mod this weapon with the Gladiator set. You're going to be focusing on bringing your combo duration as high as possible, maybe bring your initial combo as well a little bit higher up, and basically what you're going to do is shoot the enemies a couple of times, because this is basically a gun blade, so you shoot a couple of enemies, bring your combo multiplier up to 12x, and then basically activate your fourth when you lowered your restrain meter, and then red crits galore. Now, I didn't say this earlier because I it didn't really matter, but the Nerimon focus goal here is gonna be really good. The first, I think it is basically just the first ability, I guess, that you unlock, or the first node, whatever you want to say, instead of the Nerimon focus tree, increasing your combo duration, or actually not increasing it, but making it decay instead of disappearing all at once, decaying it by 5 if I am correct. So that is also going to be very cool. 7 Forma on my Baruch. Definitely one of the more tedious warframes to you know, farm up and then get to level up, but believe me, it was totally worth the 7 what's it called, Formas that I put in him. An amazing warframe. One cool thing would be, because he doesn't have a way of gaining health back, an amazing thing that to have would be, for example, getting yourself what's called an Archon Shard and increasing your heal rate by 25, I think it is. That's the blue Archon Shard, so that is going to be a nice thing, and I do need to remember that to do and put on him as well. But that was Baruch, an amazing warframe. Moving on to number 2. At number 2, we have our infested lord. Of course, it is Nidus Prime. Yes, one of the personal favorites of the gaming weasel, which is of course me, Nidus Prime. An amazing warframe, a great looking warframe with his deluxe skin, and also one of the most undying bastards inside of a warframe. He is amazing, and I do truly mean amazing inside of Steel Path. When you set up his third ability, Parasitic Link, onto an enemy, the damage, the incoming damage gets, I guess, redirected towards that enemy that you have Parasitic linked to. His fourth ability summons infested grass with little termites basically attacking your enemies and also healing you at an amazing rate. And also second ability, Larva, bringing enemies in, and his first ability, gaining you mutation stacks. The more mutation stacks you have, the higher damage multiplier your, I guess, abilities do have. And of course, having the Teeming Virulence augment increases your rifle's critical chance. If I'm correct, someone correct me in the comment section below, I'm gonna do quick maths here. It is by 460% in total, depending on your power strength. The build is focused on power strength. The aura is the only thing that I would change. I do have Steel Charge. I don't know why. I probably have that because of the, I can't be bothered to mod him again. But the Umbral set, the total Umbral set, a total of 2000 HP, 1000 armor. This tank cannot die. Of course, primary Arcane Primary Charger and Molt Augmented. Primary Charger is here just because of Teeming Virulence. Increasing your rifle's damage is going to be really cool. You can change this out for whatever you do want. The primary that I use is the Phantasm. Not an amazing weapon. I was just testing this little weapon a little bit more out with Nidus, but you can use whichever primary you can. And of course, the melee weapon of choice, what other than the Glaive Prime. The best way to play this warframe is to set it up in a corner somewhere. You set up your Parasitic Link, activate your grass, and then basically just kill everything that comes in front of you with either your first ability, either your primary, melee, second, it doesn't really matter, it's going to die anyway. And keep in mind, a great little thing, a note that I want you guys to know, if you do activate your fourth ability while it's still active, the explosion from the ability running out won't happen, and you won't do, it can do an amazing amount of damage sometimes, so keep that in mind. Nonetheless, Nidus, our infested undying tank, can survive everything if you do set him up right, and with the mods that I did, he definitely is set up right. I don't think I actually have one Archon mod increasing his health by 150, but that is it. Nonetheless, I have not changed anything else on him. So that was Nidus Prime. Now we're gonna move on to the honorable mentions. Now in the honorable mentions, we're gonna mention just a couple of different warframes. I mean, as I said at the beginning of the video, with shield gating, everything can survive plenty enough. Of course, in Naros Prime cannot be not mentioned, I guess, inside of a tanky build. Naros Prime is an amazing warframe, has tons and tons of armor and health, so you can basically tank through anything. I just think the abilities are quite boring. Now but Cora can survive for a decent amount as well. With Dispensary, instead of her third ability, she can gain health as well as energy and also ammo if need be. And her fourth ability is going to crowd control enough that you don't have to worry about anything basically, you know, appearing. And extra resources, always amazing to have with Pilfering Strangledome. And of course, she is a really great DPS Warframe. Hildren as well, an amazing Warframe with tons and tons and tons of shields. Basically, the female version of Inaros with her pillage. Gora as well is still an amazing Warframe. Garuda. There are many different Warframes that I do play on occasion inside of Steel Path. Oberon has been changed a little bit as well, so he is quite good inside of Steel Path now. And of course, how can a video go without mentioning Wukong, or Undying Monkey Frame, surviving basically through Steel Path and also surviving quite a bit of reworks. So that was the honorable mentions. Now moving on to the first Warframe. And at number 1, I think all of us were expecting this, but actually one of my least used Warframes inside of Steel Path, it is Octavia Prime. If you want to be lazy, if you don't want to even move around, just maybe just spam crouch a couple of seconds and basically be invisible throughout the whole of Steel Path, you can survive hours upon hours with Octavia because of her amazing scaling damage inside of Steel Path. Well, this is the Warframe for you. The build is focusing a little bit on everything, but primarily, at least in my situation, it is going to be duration. Multi-efficiency and augmented are amazing arcanes to have on this Warframe. 3-4 muscle not that difficult to craft and I guess bring up to speed. An amazing Warframe. I would explain the abilities, but I'm gonna leave the wiki page down below because it's so long and so much things. I'll try to explain it real fast. Mallet attracts enemies fire, they shoot it, they get damage back, and the damage scales incredibly good on this. The Resonator basically carries Mallet around, making enemies follow it, and also dealing blast damage per, I guess, per beat. Hers, third ability will give you a buff depending on an action that you do. You know, if you shoot in the rhythm, you'll get, let's say, a multi-shot buff. If you slash, you'll get a melee bonus buff. If you, I don't know, crouch, which is the main one that people use, you will go invisible for a certain duration. Her fourth basically amplifying the damage, of everything that is inside. The more noise in this amp circle, the more you will gain a damage. So basically that is it. That is going to be Octavia in a nutshell. An amazing Warframe. Basically what you need to do is find yourself a corner, hide in it, or I guess you don't even have to hide. You can activate, I always activate my third ability first so I can crouch and go invisible, and then your first ability, second ability, fourth ability, and just basically stand still and reactivate your ability every 20, 30, 40, 50 seconds depending on how long your abilities last. And that is basically the playstyle of Octavia. Collect a little bit of energy, collect a little bit of life support. Now I do use the Glaive Prime in this situation only because my damage of my first and second ability don't scale fast enough when the Acolyte arrives. I do not mean it's a bad build, it's just I'm really bad at activating my abilities. I always activate my abilities when the I guess Acolyte appears, and then the damage is minuscule to the Acolyte, so the Glaive Prime is going to be my scapegoat and basically one-shot the Acolyte, and basically then just move on and kill everything else. So that is going to be my top 5. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, do leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. It took me a little bit of time to create this video, so it would be greatly appreciated. This has been your lovely host, the Gaming Weasel, and do leave it in the comment section down below what other Warframes that you use in Steel Path. So I will see you guys on the next one. This has been the Gaming Weasel, over and out.